Hello and welcome to Journeys in Transformation Analytics. And I'm Amaresh Tripathy. I run the analytics business at Genpact. And today I have Kiran Mysore, who is the former Vice President of Operational Analytics and Insights at Medtronic, as my guest. Kiran, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Amrish.
So Kiran and I have been chatting about the research around the economics of decision making, and we've been talking about the four big themes that kind of drive up the essentially the cost of insight. And today we're going to talk about the fourth and the final theme here, which is the cost of data consumption. Right? And this is obviously a big one. This is kind of where rubber meets the road. You can discover the data, you can ingest the data, you can organize it, but at the end of the day, from a business value perspective, it's all about, are you able to connect the dots and get the insights, produce the insights that needs to get consumed. And and some of the challenges we normally see in the whole journey, and that which drives up the cost, is a lot of like siloed skills. Like you have data engineers and visualization experts, data scientists. You have all great folks, but they are kind of all in a very siloed way. The analytics process itself is super sequential. It kind of like very traditional waterfall approach. And in Kiran, I know you've in your experience have tried some interesting innovative area things in this area. So why don't you just talk a little bit about how did you manage to essentially drive down the cost of data consumption?
Sure, Amrish. So, a key challenge in this area is the cost of engaging so many different teams, right? You have your source system teams, you have your engineering teams, you have your systems analysts, you have data scientists and others. And it takes all of them to sort of come together to really produce a really quality output to help make a decision. Now, the challenge is all of these teams have their own intake mechanisms, right? And a lot of times they may or may not be incentivized to work together as a team to cater to one decision. So how do you solve it, right? So one of the things we've seen is commingling a team with a functional and a technical expertise set is really the key to the problem, right? So the key there is you bring the key stakeholders together and give them the same design principles, the principles of Agile, for example, the principles of doing releases in an incremental fashion. I think those techniques will really help you move faster in terms of getting to that end state. I know that in organizations, Agile can be hard to do because it increases friction. But it's also a great way to lower the overall cost, right? Because you can use a test and learn mentality. You can do A/B testing, for example, in really figuring out, is this the right answer to the question that is being asked? So I think these are all techniques to use. The one key consideration here is this type of a structure takes time. Sometimes this organizational structure can create friction within the organization. So what I've seen work really well is the concept of an analytics pod by a subject area. So you take a subject area, maybe like a supply chain or like a procurement, and then bring the stakeholders together that really are the SMEs for that particular problem that is to be solved. And then take those stakeholders, solve the problem, and then continue on to the next problem. And a lot of times, if teams can be pulled together quickly and disbanded quickly, I think you can really start to get that speed and agility along the way.
And no, that's really interesting. Do you have a before and after example for us?
Absolutely. So when you think about, in one example I have is a time when I worked with an organization which was used to creating requirements and then going through the design and then ultimately the implementation of that design. And this took a really long time, sometimes upwards of 6 months from the time a business stakeholder wanted to make a decision to the time they actually had all the answers in place. And by then the opportunity cost was lost. And so by implementing an analytics pod, which really created this sort of virtual team that came together, did a very quick prototype, and then answered the question, we were able to reduce that to under 1 month. And at times, over higher maturity, as we evolved with the maturity, we were able to go to bi-weekly releases. So can you imagine you're actually making two decisions a month versus one decision every 6 months. And that really led to some amazing decision making and a broadened scope of the quality of the decisions that the executives made.
And what were the challenges? Because I feel like unlike software engineering, who I think have adopted agile as kind of in some ways a standard ways of working, even though you can argue like there are variations within that.
Yeah.
Analytics doesn't have something like that. In some ways, what you're advocating is kind of adopting that. What were the challenges internally within the team as you started started driving this vision?
There were certainly a few challenges, right? First was just expertise, right? Having that expertise to go build something like that. And that's where, we partnered together with your team, Amaresh, to drive some of these speed and agile improvements. So that was certainly one. Culture is another one, right? Which is a culture of trying to get all the requirements up front to be absolutely sure that, the team is meeting the need of the question. That is a key one to challenge. And in this case, one of the things we said was, let's keep a threshold of perfection, right? So we don't need to be 100% perfect. We can get to about 80% and then still be comfortable with the decision we're making, right? And it's okay to take a big risk. And if we failed at it, we've learned something new. So let's iterate better the next time around. So I think just overcoming the risk-taking mentality, the conservative nature of how things work, and also just the methodology of taking a serial approach, which start from the beginning and end in a sequential stage. I think we sort of got around that through this approach.
Awesome. No, that's awesome. I mean, and then you brought up this one of the other topics I love to chat about, which is the cost of a wrong decision. Because sometimes understanding the cost of the wrong decision actually helps you. This whole what is good enough, and and sometimes we can get wrapped around that. But Kiran, thank you so much for sharing. This is I mean, I know you've done some fantastic work in this area and driven your teams to do that. But this is one of the I would say the most important lever in some ways to kind of go and drive that. That's where Rubber meets the road, as we talked about. But thank you so much, Kiran, for coming and sharing with us, and we'll chat more about how to get started on a journey like this.
It's my pleasure, Amaresh. Thanks.